Hello and welcome to Relatable Code. In this video, we will make a direct application of what we've learned so far, from lists to loops to functions. Okay, so let's get started. So, in this video, we will make an application for a grocery store, okay, where customers can go into the store and have a shopping cart. To this shopping cart, they can add items, they can also remove items, and when they're done, they submit their items and a receipt is printed out. Okay, with each item in this shopping cart along with its price, and of course at the end the total cost of their whole items. Okay, so in order to accomplish this, you have to create a new IntelliJ project. Okay, and follow these requirements. This will be a practical video, so you will go over these requirements one by one. Pause the video and then continue and see the answer. Okay, so first requirement, you have to create a list for items to be added. In our case, let's only consider we have apples and oranges. Okay, it's a poor grocery shop. Second requirement, we have to create a functionality to add and remove items from this list. Okay. Third requirement, we have to create a functionality to go over every item in this list and print it out along with its price, like what we've seen here. Okay, this is the output. As you've seen, this is the number or the index of the item, along with the name of the item and the price. Okay. Fourth requirement, we have to create a functionality to print out the total price of all items. Okay, like this. And let's assume the price for the apple is $2 and the price for the orange is $1. Okay, pause the video, try to do this yourselves, and let's get back with the solution. And now we will begin. I hope you're excited because things are starting to get very interesting. And believe me, by the end of this playlist, you will be surprised at what you've learned. Okay, let's take this step by step and go over the first requirement. So we're going to create a list for items to be added for these two items in particular, and we're going to assume that our list is a list of strings. Okay, so let's create a list for that. Let's create a val and name it shopping cart items. And since this is a list that we will modify, add and remove items from and to, let's create a mutable list. Okay, and we're going to assume that these apples and oranges are strings. Okay, so create mutable list of, and let's have of type string. Okay, that's already the first requirement done. Let's move on to the second one. In the second requirement, we have to create a functionality to add and remove items from this list. So I'm going to create two separate functions for that. I'm going to create a function add new item, and it will take a parameter. This parameter is an item of type string. Okay, this could be an apple or an orange. So in the body of this function, I want to write shopping cart items dot add item. Okay, that's basically how you add an item to a list. Let's create another function for removing an item. So fun remove item. It's also going to take an item as a parameter. As we've discussed in the video about lists, I don't like using the remove add function. I'd rather remove the item itself. Okay, and we can do it like this: shopping cart items dot remove item. Okay, and in case this item didn't exist, we won't face a crash or anything. That's why I like this function. Okay, and that's basically it for the second requirement. And the third one, we have to create the functionality to go over every item in this list and print it out. And to do that, we need a loop. Okay, so let's make a function and call it print receipt. Okay. Inside this print receipt, let's check first what we need to create. We need to print out this line of code to your shopping cart. Okay. In order to replicate this output. So first we write print line your shopping cart. Okay. And then we're looping over the items in this list, and we're checking the index of each item in this list. Okay. Along with the current item and its price. So let's see how we can do that. Let's go back here, and we have to create a for loop to loop over the indices. We can do it like this: for index in shopping cart items dot indices. Okay. And how can we access a particular item at this index? We've already seen that as well. We can do shopping cart items, open the brackets, and write index. Okay. Now we have access to the current item in this loop of indices. Okay. But what's required of us? We need to print out the order of the item in the list along with its name and the price. Okay. So we need to check if this is an apple or an orange, because apples have a price of $2 and oranges have a price of $1. And we can do that here. This is how we obtain the current item, and this is how we check for the current item in the loop. We can write shopping cart items at this index if this is equal to apple. This is basically an apple. Else, if shopping cart items at this current index in the loop is equal to orange, we can handle the case for the orange here. Okay. Looking back at our application, we need to print out the current order of the item itself, and its price. Okay. And pay attention, the order here will begin at 1, not at 0. We have to handle that in our code, and you will see how. So we need a print line statement like this. Print line, open the quotations. So first we need access to the current index. Okay, let's have the $sign, the brackets, and write index. But we don't want it to start at 0, we want it to start at 1. So we write index plus 1. Okay. Put a dot after that, because we have a dot here. We need to print the current item and the price accordingly. So if this is an apple, we need to do this. Write $sign again, open the brackets, shopping cart items at this index. Now we have apple, and at the end we have to print out the price. In the case of an apple, it's $2. So here you write $2. Okay. And the same goes for oranges. You can write this, but the price of an orange is not $2, it's $1. Okay. So change that to 1. And basically that's it for the print receipt. I hope that wasn't too complex. We're moving on to the fourth functionality, which is to print out the total price of our items. And we can do it like this. Create a function, call it calculate total price. But this function will have a return type. Let's have it return a float or a string. Let's have it return a string. You don't need to work with floats or doubles here. Strings will do. Okay, so let's start by having an initial price, which we will later increment according to the items in this list. Okay, so let's say var total price equals 0.0. And I used a var because this total price will change in value. Okay, we will reassign it and we will modify it. So what can we do here? We need to loop again over all the items in our list, but now we don't need the index anymore. We can use a simpler loop, which I like to use a lot, and that's the for each loop. So you can write shopping cart items dot for each, and I'm going to show you a small trick for dealing with for each loops. Because when you use for each, you can access the current item using the it keyword, as we've discussed. Okay, it is the current item in this loop of the list. But I don't like using the it keyword, to be honest. It's not very expressive. So we can do something here. After the brackets in the for each function, we can write item, or you can name it anything you want. It doesn't have to be item. And after that, write an arrow. Okay. Now the current item in this list is not it, it's item. That's how you can now access it here. Okay. I really prefer to use this, and I hope you do as well, because it will make your code a lot more readable. Because in the future, when you use a lot of loops, you may not know what it is at the moment. Okay. So now I have the current item in each state in this loop, and I want to check if it is an apple or an orange, because everyone or every item in this case has a certain price. Okay, let's use a when statement. So let's write when item. Okay, I'm using this item when it's an apple. I want to do something, and when it's an orange, I want to do something else. And speaking of else, we have the, not this else, this else, okay, the exhaustive else, as they call it, because it exhausts your condition. It basically handles every other condition that you're not thinking of, or the default case here, okay? So, if the item is an apple, what do we want to do to the total price? We want to increment it by 2, okay? So let's write total price. We can write plus equals 2, I believe. And if it's an orange, we can write plus equals 1. Else, we can do nothing here. We can just write something like print line, maybe unknown item. And after the loop is finished, we want to return this total price so that we can work with it outside the scope of this function. So we can write return total price, but that's a double. And we want a string in this case. So we can write dot to string. Okay, that converts our double to a string so that we can use it. And I guess that's it. We've completed these 4 requirements, and now let's test them out. So let's check our main function and go like adding items already. Let's add, and here we have to be careful. We have to write these exact words. Okay, we have to write apple apple, orange. Okay. Before we test out the remove item, let's test add a new item. So let's print receipt. And now let's use this calculate total price. How can we use it? We can use it like this. Val total price equals calculate total price. And now we can use it inside a print statement. We can write print line. Let's check the output from there. Total cost 9.0. So we can write total cost. You can name it total cost, you can name it total price, it's up to you. Okay. Let's run our function. And let's see if we've forgotten something. It's currently building. And that's it. You have your shopping cart. You have every item in your shopping cart, and you have the total cost of your items, in this case 7.7. Okay, which is exactly the same as this output. So let's test out just one more thing, the remove item. Okay, so let's write remove item apple. Run that function again. And as you can see, it got removed from the list. Now we have only 2 apples, 1 orange, and a total cost of 5. Okay. Now that was one way to create this application. Remember, when it comes to programming, sometimes there's no correct or wrong way, but sometimes you have cleaner ways. Okay. And I want you to pay attention to the print receipt function. Because in this function, we had 2 print line statements, which are pretty similar. Okay, they are almost identical, except for the price of the item in this print line statement. And it's nice to know that you can write it in a different way, and I'll show you how. Let's actually create a price variable, which could reflect the price of the apple and the orange. Okay. So let's create var price equals, for example, have it equal to 0 initially. And when our current item is an apple, this price is equal to 2. And when it's an orange, this price is equal to 1. So now we have access to the price, whether it's an apple or an orange. And we can eliminate the need for 2 print line statements with writing only one. And you can do it like this. So you can write print line. It will actually retain most of its information because it's repetitive, except for this part, the cost. Here you can write $sign price. Okay. And don't be confused by the $sign that comes after that. You can omit it, you can add it. That's just the string symbol. Okay. Because nothing comes after that symbol, it just gets printed out literally to the output window like that. Okay. But when you write a variable after this $sign, the value of that variable is printed out. So let's delete these 2 print line statements. We don't need them anymore. Because now in our loop, we're looping over every item. If it's an apple, we're setting our price to 2. If it's an orange, we're changing our price to 1. Okay? And before we go into the next item in this loop, as you can see, this function or this line of code is still within the scope of the for loop. You can make sure of that by double-clicking on the brackets. We're having a print line statement before we go to the next item, and we're printing out just what we used to do. But in this case, we're only having one print line statement, which is, in my opinion, more efficient. Okay, let's run our code again. We should see the same output. I think that the output was something that I was testing. Don't worry about that. Run this function again. And as you can see, you have the exact same output. Okay, we have, where did my final apple go? Okay, I added 3 apples and I removed 1 apple. That's what happens when you record a video at midnight. So we're adding 3 apples and an orange. We're removing 1 apple. So now we have 2 apples and 1 orange. Okay, the total cost is indeed 5.0. And that's just another way to write your code with respect to print receipt. Okay. I really hope you like my practical examples. If you do, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next video.